The Doctor of Discernment is on the air.
More than half of the women in my administration are women.
It's time that everybody wake up and pay attention.
Dispensing a daily dose of common sense. No prescription required.
President Biden's approval rating ranks right up there with jock itch.
Come on, man. Give me a little break here.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
This is the Greg Belfrage Show.
I think many hearts are broken watching what happened at the Super Bowl parade. The Kansas City Chiefs having their parade yesterday, shooting breaking out, and 3 people in custody, 1 woman killed, a number of others injured, and the conversation has already turned to guns. Is this an issue of guns? Or do you think there's something deeper that's ongoing here? I would love to get your perspective on this. 605-336-1320. 605-336-1320 is the Kettle hotline. 605-336-1320. See, I don't accept that it's guns. I think that's an elementary school reaction to what is got to be a complex problem. We have had guns that are available in this country my entire life. Guns have always been available. And what's changed is the willingness of people to use them in these kinds of ways. So I would love to get your perspective on it. 605-336-1320. It's just a heartbreaking story. So we're going to start with Richard's thoughts. Good morning, Richard. You're on Kello.
Hey, good morning, Greg.
Hi.
Yeah, it's definitely not a gun problem. It's, this is textbook Democrat play, try and never let a tragedy go to waste. So, it's the guns. No, it's not the guns. And I think more and more people are waking up to that fact that, boy, there's sure a trend in these shootings that are happening lately. And, you're not allowed to talk about the trend because that makes you a bigot or a racist or, a transphobe or something like that. But there's certainly an undeniable trend in these last several high-profile shootings that have happened. We have a mental health problem in this country with lack of resources to address. We have problems with the nuclear family and fathers not being in homes and not being able to show people, young men in particular, the way that you be a man. And so they turn to gangs and they turn to people in gangs who obviously teach them that violence and murder is the answer. It's interesting to go on X and see all these celebrities immediately talk about guns, yet you never see these same celebrities talk about how many kids died yesterday in gang violence or how many kids died yesterday of fentanyl overdoses or car accidents or anything like that. So it's not a gun problem. A gun is a tool like anything else. I have yet to have any one of my guns sprout arms and legs and go and shoot anybody. Right. So it's we do have a problem in this country, absolutely. And every one of these that happens is the real thing that I think so many of us see is these are preventable, but we're not talking about what the real problem is. We're just pointing at guns because it just divides people, and that's what they want.
You've said it all. I mean, honestly, Richard, I feel exactly the same way. I think what those who are responding to guns, it's all about the guns. We got to do something about guns. That is the kind of response I'd expect from somebody in elementary school. I mean, seriously, let's be serious. And you put your finger on a lot of the problems. Mental illness, I think, is front and center among those. Richard, thank you so much for getting us off to a great start. Good morning, Marty. You're on Kello.
Good morning. Your last caller has a lot of it exactly where it needs to be. A large part, I think, of the problem is that we have gotten to the point where violence is becoming so acceptable in this country. We start off when they're children, showing them, violence is okay. We see it everywhere. We see it in video games, on the movies.
Yep.
We see it everywhere. and it's acceptable. And the other part of the problem is, I think, the lack of parent comment about violence. I wonder sometimes if parents actually know how much violence their children are seeing around them all the time. And you're right.
I know the news is full of it, and it's not all people getting killed as we saw yesterday, or getting shot, but even just the level of violence that's going on right now on streets throughout the country. It's just heartbreaking, Marty.
Exactly, and we've shown our children that it's okay to attack law enforcement officers because they're not there to help you. They're there to hurt you. We have just made it way too acceptable, and it needs to be called out. And yes, I am truly believing that the Democrats want to use as much of this as they can because they do want gun restriction. And ask yourself, how have the states who have red laws, how has that helped anything?
Right.
It hasn't helped a thing.
They're among the states that have some of the worst records. Chicago would be an example.
Exactly. And another thing is that our insurance companies and people who campaign so hard for everybody to have the same rights have made it really hard to even treat people who have mental illness.
Yeah, I think in a lot of cases that really is the issue. We have people who are, dealing with mental illness. It's an epidemic in this country. It's not guns that are the epidemic. It's mental illness. That's the epidemic. Marty, thank you for your thoughts, my friend. 605-336-1320 is the Kello hotline. Good morning, Dale. You're on Kello.
Good morning. So our friends in the government have set up a society and where violence is thriving, defund the police, yada, yada, yada. And then when this happens, they act like they're going to be the ones that are going to come in and fix the situation by taking everybody's guns away. And, no matter what when this happens, how many people get shot, what the situation is, they're going to run with it. But I just saw on ABC that they had one of the perpetrators that the crowd tackled. It was just on ABC News. They blurred the guy out. So, after watching all these things happen over time, the guy's not a white Trump supporter, so this one here isn't going to be on the news very long. They'll ride this for a few days and then they'll blow it off. But
the media is a whole nother issue. I absolutely agree.
Yeah, but they're just using these shootings like this. They've promoted this with all this hatred and turning everybody against the police and creating this violent society we live in now. And then they act like they're surprised when it happens.
And how do you feel about that?
Well, it really upsets me because I've got kids. I've got 5 kids and I've got 10 grandkids. And I want them to have the world I was fortunate enough to live in, not what's the destruction that's left after these politicians that we have are creating this problem.
Great points. Dale, thank you, my friend, for your call. Good morning, Joe. You're on Kello.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm saddened, obviously, by what happened yesterday.
Absolutely, and I guess I agree with you. It's guns are not to blame in this case, and I agree with your previous callers about the degradation, the family unit, and all that. And I just wanted to add in too, all these woke policies of district attorneys as far as criminal justice reform and making it really hard to get justice for victims of violent crime, whether it be rape or shooting or robbery or whatever. These criminals are not put away. They're, oftentimes there's not even bail, and they're just returned right back to the streets. And so these gang members really have no fear. They have no fear of incarceration or any kind of punishment. So why not just resort to deadly force right away? They don't really have an incentive not to. And so I think, there shouldn't really be any surprise. If you're not going to aggressively enforce the laws that we already have, why would you be surprised that crime increases?
You're absolutely right. And sadly, I'm not surprised when I see these things anymore. I don't know when I stopped being surprised, but I'm not. I mean, I'm saddened. I'm horribly saddened. It's just absolutely tragic what we see, but it's not a surprise, Joe. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Thanks for your thoughts, my friend. Good to hear from you, Joe. Good morning, Will. You're on Kello.
Hi, Greg. Thanks for taking my call. Yes, we can all agree that this is tragedy, but I'd like to push back a little bit against the stigma that always comes up when this happens, and it's the video games. It's not the video games. That's what happens when it's a misconception, because I've been a part of the gaming community for a while now, and there are some very, very healthy communities online. It's a way to help people connect. It's not, there's no correlation between a mass shooting and, the person was into violent video games. None of it.
Yeah, I think there are a million problems that are resulting in what we're seeing.
That's like the third, fourth, fifth thing that comes up. They always.
Yeah, but I don't know that you. Okay, because I play violent video games too, but I'm older. I got a sense of reality. You're the same way. Kids, that's a different conversation, Will.
Yes, no, and that's where the parents need to come in and have the oversight of what they're doing online.
Yeah, agreed.
Yes, exactly. We just don't. I just don't want the quote unquote gamer community to be vilified in these situations.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I think we have much greater issues overall that we're facing, that we see as a being responsible for this kind of stuff. I mean, we really are seeing our American society kind of crumble apart. And I think a previous caller was absolutely right, talking about the lack of prosecutions. And you see this in the larger Democrat DAs who don't want to prosecute crimes, who let these folks back out. And I think it's gotten to a point where things are so out of hand, you could not jail all these people now. You just couldn't. I mean, it's insanity everywhere that you look around. So let's get back to some of your thoughts. Phone lines are open right now if you'd like to join the program. 605-336-1320 is my number. 605-336-1320. Call now. Good morning, Rick. You're on Kello.
Hey, Greg. Good morning to you.
Hey, buddy.
I'm listening to the callers and kind of digesting some of this myself. I just feel it's a breakdown of society in general. Whether it be drugs, it be just the family unit in general, the lack of values, parents not being parents anymore and just letting their kids run amok, drugs. I mean, it's 100 different issues that we have.
Yeah.
The money that we're sending to Ukraine and we're sending to, the Middle East and everything else, wouldn't that be better spent in our own country, solving our own internal problems? And I always like to use Sioux Falls as an example. I mean, when you do a major crime in Sioux Falls, you better be looking over your shoulder, because police here will hunt you down. We have a great police force. I would not want to do a crime in this town, and compared to where I lived out in California all my life until I moved here 11 years ago, which is the same size as Sioux Falls, they had probably 15 cops on the street at any given time. Sioux Falls, and I have a couple friends that are on the police force, Sioux Falls at any given time has 40 cops on the street at any given time. It's just incredible the difference between the two towns that are similar in size and population, but yet the crime is a muck, in my old hometown, and it's relatively pretty calm here. Yes, do we have crime? Absolutely. Do the police try and do a pretty good job at major crime? Absolutely, And I think the little crime's hard to get, the vehicle burglaries and stuff like that. But if you do a major crime in this town, it's going to be solved probably, and they're going to go after you, with a vengeance. And I think that's what I see. Is I think we need to really focus on, and we saw it in New York when those cops got beat up a couple weeks ago. They let them out and they're gone. They're not going to find those guys again. It'll be really hard to find them. And the lack of prosecution, as you said earlier, is another thing. There's just so many things that we need to fix that are associated with this that all tie it all together, and we're not fixing it. We're ignoring it. Our government's ignoring it at the federal level, and it's not being solved, and that's what's frustrating for me.
I totally understand your frustration. I share a lot of those same feelings. Thank you, Rick. Good morning, Art. You're on Kello.
Good morning. It starts at home with lack of parenting. They think the schools are supposed to parent their children, so they don't parent them at home. And then it gets into a school where a school teaches them to be individuals, not listen to their parents, but do what they want to do because it's their body, their choice. And then you've got a whole government-run system designed to break that family apart through any means necessary, and that's where we are. Everybody, all of your previous callers are right. It's got nothing to do with the weapon and everything to do with the problems that they won't talk about.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and there are a host of them. I mean, there are a bunch of different mental illness is one component, but there are a number of others, I think. And so to just focus on the guns seems like the perspective of a 7-year-old to me, Art.
It's a purposeful event. They're doing that so that they can disarm the poor. Look at the amount of illegal aliens pouring over the border. This is all the poor class. So they're dividing the gap between the very wealthy, protected, armored people and the very poor. And the working class is getting drugged down into that. And if they can take their guns away, they'll have everybody. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I hate those. But I can see it.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, you saw it yesterday in Kansas City. Absolutely right. Art, thanks for your thoughts. Phone lines are open if you'd like to join the program. 605-336-1320. Good morning, Mel. You're on Kello.
Good morning, Greg. I just wanted to touch on the subject of the caller just a couple ago that said that it's the parents' responsibility. Well, we got to understand that most of these people now they don't really have parents that are overly involved anymore. I mean, you have lots of single family or single parent homes where if you're the breadwinner in a single family home or single parent home, you're working. You're not there to supervise those kids, and some of them they understand and they mind because they know what that parent is doing. The sacrifice for them, but this is no longer a parent problem. This is a societal problem. It is trickling down into, obviously, if you're a single parent home, you ain't making $100,000 a year most of the time, so you have to sacrifice, and you only have so much time in a day. You only have so much time in a week, and if you ain't working, then what else are you teaching your kids?
Right. Mel, those are great points. This is part of why I said I think there are a million different issues that we see these things unfolding. I wouldn't want to pick on, single parent families as the reason why. I mean, there are a host, and we don't even know what the shooters are responsible for this. We don't even know who they were yet or what their mindset was. But these are just signs of a really sick, society, Mel.
Well, of course it is. But it's not something that just happened. It's something that's been broken down since the late 60s. You know, there's plenty of stats to show that every single time that we offer government help, government handouts, that money ain't well spent. What is well spent is money you earn, money that you work for, money that you're proud of you made.
Hey, Mel, we ought to send you to Congress. Seriously. Thank you, my friend, for your call. I really appreciate it. Mel, it was nice to talk to you. Want to get to Jeff's thoughts here, and we'll wrap up. Good morning, Jeff. You're on Kello.
Good morning. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Just heartbroken, as I think many of us are.
Oh, I agree. And I'm kind of different. I've been listening to your program this morning. The one thing, I think that it should be a mandatory, for all these gun cases, these gun shootings, there's probably 100 cases where the police take a gun from somebody that isn't supposed to have one. I think that should be a mandatory 10-year sentence in prison if you're caught with a gun and you're not supposed to have one.
Yeah.
Mandatory. I mean, no ifs, no bans, just rubber stamp. You get 10 years because you had something you knew you weren't supposed to have.
Yeah.
I do believe in the Second Amendment, but it's automatic. And I just saw it with my own eyes here not too long ago where a guy got caught with a gun. He got 2 years with a year probation and don't do it again. Slap on the wrist. There's no crime there. And then the second part I got with that is a lot of these gang violences and everything like that. You never hear about the celebrities talking down as don't join gangs. You never. Once, few and far between. You know what I mean, Greg?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Great points, Jeff. Thank you so much for the call. News and information update on the way. This hour of the Greg Belfridge Show brought to you by Nest Tax and Bookkeeping. You have payroll, bookkeeping, or owe the IRS? Talk to Nest. NestTax.com.
Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Weekdays at 2. Kello. News Talk 1320. 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is sponsored by Tires, the Give You More Tire and Automotive Store.
Jordan B. Peterson, We Who Wrestle with God Tour.
If you say the truth and nothing else, you'll have an immense adventure as a consequence. You won't know what's going to happen to you, but the truth will reveal the world the way it's intended to be revealed. And the consequence for you will be that you'll have the adventure of your life.
Jordan B. Peterson, live at Denny Sanford Premier Center, February 20th. Get tickets now at Ticketmaster.com.
The best way to describe Farmers Union is family.
South Dakota Farmers Union is run by producers like myself.
People can really get involved in and go somewhere with it and get things accomplished.
It put me in places that I didn't have access to before, and it put me in front of people that I've never would have had a chance to be in front of.
Join us in having your voice be heard.
Join us in protecting family farms and ranches. Join the South Dakota Farmers Union.
Hi, this is Greg Belfridge for Sioux Falls Secret for Weight Loss. Doctors at Johns Hopkins say people tend to gain 5 to 7 pounds on average during the winter months. That's not welcome news, especially for those who are overweight, because once weight is gained, it's tough to lose. Dr. Ben and the team at Sioux Falls Secret for Weight Loss can help. Dr. Ben will teach you how to lose up to 1 pound of fat every day with no exercise required. That's important because many of us find it difficult to exercise during the winter. There's no counting points or calories, no prepackaged meals or meal plans.